Every time you launch a new product, there is always this question, who has ever used it? So you have to overcome this. If you don't overcome this, it is difficult for people to convince, no matter how good is a product.
Welcome back, everybody. Rich Baker, Shanghai-based social entrepreneur, here today with TT from RenewMaterial. We talk about, obviously, the product that we have behind us, the renewable pallets. We talk about how he got into this 13 years ago, trying to solve an agricultural waste air pollution issue. And we talk about how he's making his way through COVID-19. It's not been the gentlest year for anyone. But this guy, he is so persistent. He will not give up. He believes wholly in himself. And he's got a lot of lessons for young entrepreneurs. So, TT, thank you very much for the time that you're taking with us. Do me a favor and introduce yourself to our community.
I'm Teck Tin Wong here. I'm from Singapore. I'm the founder of RenewMaterial. We collect agricultural fiber and convert them into a new material. And this material is an alternative to wood. And the reason why we are doing this is basically that we want to help to protect the environment.
What is the material that you're working with here, and how long have you been doing this?
Well, this material is agricultural fiber, such as wheat, rice stalk, even bamboo fiber. And these are basically the waste material. If you don't use, you simply burn it away.
This is straw, wheat, wasted agricultural material that just sits in the fields?
Oh yes, if nobody collects, the farmer simply burn it away and emit CO2 to the air.
And so how did you start this idea? Like, what was the founding seed that you started with?
Okay, in fact, I've been in China as early as 1989. At that point in time, I was doing a project for the local government. There was only one airport. Every time when it comes to the harvest season, farmers start to burn, the flight delay. The PM 2.5 can be as high as 400-500. Even you stay in the hotel, you can smell the burning. At night, you put out your hand, you can't even see your hand. So I met up with the local authority, and he asked me a very simple question. He knew my background because I've been doing a lot of know-how transfer project in China. He asked me, do you have any solution for this?
How did you get started? Like, what was the process you went through to find this technology or this process? What was your R&D process?
I will say that at that point in time, honestly, I did not know anything about this. I decided to quit my job and to do full-time research R&D. I work with a factory in Huai'an. This factory is basically they're doing something similar. So I thought that I could use their facility to do R&D without spending much money.
And did you, when you referenced this one company, but did you also reference, say, academics or anyone outside of China to see what was happening? Or was it all literally just locally developed and locally scaled?
Oh, it is basically locally developed.
Okay.
There is no other available technology at that point in time to convert agricultural fiber into a new material. They are straw-board, but the technology that they're using basically they're quite different. This board, it can be used for, but the application is limited. I come up with a new technology. It's a closed mold method where we can compress the material into a much more higher density, as high as 1,300 kg per meter cube. So it is durable, and the application can be much more wider.
What are the applications of this? Like, what you say, if it can be made of wood, it can be made of this, but what are you making here every day? Like, what's the main products? Okay.
We started off with a packaging pallet. Pallet is just, it looks like this. It's used for transportation, used for storage and transportation. As long as you are in the manufacturing, you need a pallet to store your goods. If you want to export your good out, you need a pallet to pack the goods. The uniqueness about this pallet that traditionally, if you use a wood timber pallet, for example, you are subject to fumigation and heat treatment. It's a very tedious process. When we make this pallet, in fact, it is subject to high heat and high pressure. So whatever insect have in the timber or whatever, all have been killed.
Who's buying these from you? And what's the cost difference or what's the performance difference against, say, a traditional wood pallet?
Today, most of the MMC, like Hewlett-Packard, Shell, DuPont, all these are our customers using our pellet. The advantages of using this is they don't have to do fumigation and heat treatment. In fact, they save some money.
Do they care about sustainability? When they buy this, they're like, hey, this is sustainable, so I'm going to buy it? Or is it really performance and cost-based?
I will say that there are two reasons they buy this pellet from us. One is cost competitive. Number two is sustainable.
That's interesting. Okay. What else are you making here, and how did you learn, or how do you grow over time?
The reason why we choose pellet as our first product is that pellet is to be used in a very rough condition. If this material can be used for pellet, it can be used for some other application. In fact, today we are able to do flooring using this material, wall panel, ceiling board, furniture, and many other products. And I will say that today, anything from floor to ceiling, wall to wall, we can do.
Right.
Whatever wood can do, we can do. In fact, we can do better than wood.
When you funded this 10 years ago, 13 years ago, did you approach the funding, the business model in any different way than you would, say, one of your other companies that you were funding? I mean, this is a sustainability company. You were on an environmental mission. Did that make it easier to get the investment? Did that make it easier to build the business itself?
No, in fact, funding it was quite difficult in the initial period. In fact, I had nothing. It was just an idea. It was just an idea. I was fortunate enough to meet someone who I will say, that have a particular interest in sustainability. In fact, most of my investors are individual. In fact, some of them are working class.
How did you do that? How do you get so many people involved? And is it just emails and knocking on doors, or was it, how did you do that?
No, basically that is, we have to knock at every door, and we talk to everybody. We have to convince everybody this is a good project, and not only help to protect the environment, at the same time, I think there's a great potential to make this as a very successful business.
And what was the selling point for the funders? Was it really sustainability, or was it more the business side?
To be very honest, more on the business side. And I strongly believe that sustainability is the way to go. In fact, when we started to do this project, we make it very clear to all the individual investors that we're going to stay this for a long time, minimum 12 years. So for the initial 8 years period, we will focus more on developing capability rather than focusing on sales.
Then what's your investors' response? You mentioned they're more interested in the business than they are sometimes in sustainability, but does that mean that you have to find a very different type of investor? Like, did a lot of investors just turn you down because they're like, I can't wait 8 years?
Oh yes, yes. Basically for institution, nobody will invest in this, because basically for institution, 3 years, they're looking for 3 years payback. In fact, for some of the institutions, you have to guarantee a minimum of 15% return.
Okay.
And for individual, and they will not really look at this, and they look at long term.
How many of the investors did you know personally before they gave you money?
Almost 80–90% of them, I do not know them. But when I presented the idea to them, they like it, and I will say that they like the idea, and they think that there's a potential.
Okay.
They invested in this project.
What's the process that you take to develop a new product? Is it because a customer comes to you, or are you developing something proactively and saying, hey, here's what the market wants?
I will say that both 50–50. Some customers come to us, they say that, hey, I want to replace this, and can you do something for me? And some, like, we develop ourselves. We think that, like, for example, flooring. What we think that the existing PVC flooring is not environmental friendly. So we want to do something that replacing PVC flooring, something that's more healthy and environmental friendly.
Now, if I kind of think, like, strategically speaking, if half your business is people coming to you saying, can you make this? And you have to really figure out if you can make it, then figure out how to charge them, then it's a lot of program based. It's very hard to invest in machinery, very hard to invest in a process. But the other side is like flooring. Once you decide to do it, I mean, okay, the colorings are different, but you invest in the machines, you invest in the whole R&D process, and you have a lifelong payback. How do you look at the business then strategically? Like, do you want to do more of your own product, or you like doing more exhibition and kind of one-off type projects? What's better for you?
We will have a basic, I will say the basic product. These are the products that give us the cash flow.
Yeah.
At the same time, we develop new one. Those are much more challenging. In life, I always believe that if you do something, it is so easy, everybody can do it, there's no value. Unless you do something difficult, you're willing to spend time, not easy to do. If you can make it, then it is valuable.
Look, we're in the middle of COVID right now, so we got to talk about that. How has COVID impacted you?
I will say that quite bad. In fact, all our overseas sales now is almost zero. We used to export a lot to Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and now I will say that completely zero.
Are there any lessons that came out of COVID for you? Valuable lessons that will help your business long term?
Oh yeah, I mean, with this COVID-19, in fact, we have come up with something. And during this period, in fact, we try to coat the super zinc oxide on our fiber. With this coating, in fact, it can kill up to 99.99% of virus.
Now, have you told anyone about this yet? Are people looking to buy it already? Like, how do you take this forward, as a business?
I will say that it is a bit unfortunate. It's a bit unfortunate. Not many people believe it, even you have all the test report. Every time you launch a new product, there is always this question, who has ever used it? So you have to overcome this. If you don't overcome this, it is difficult for people to convince, even no matter how good is a product.
So how do you overcome it? What's your process?
For the pellet, in fact, we were fortunate enough, one of the MMC willing to try. And once they tried it, they buy from us, the rest all follow suit.
Okay.
I believe the same for this antimicrobial surface. We need just someone to try it. Someone tried it and say that this is effective, the rest will follow suit.
Getting that first person in the pool is always the hardest, right?
Yes. Yeah, right.
So
yeah,
you've got to
right.
entice them. So how do you make that sale?
No, I will say that very much depend on the application. At times we have to provide them free sample.
Okay.
And to do the trial together with them, and to oversee the entire trial process before we can convince them. Of course, the first buyer, you don't always get the best price.
Where do you want to be in 5 years as a company? Like, where do you see yourself strategically growing, or how do you see yourself different, or what's your big dream for 5 years from now?
No, I will say that for the next 5 years, we will focus on more on the application of this material. And right now we are doing a lot of all the different type of projects. And we work with a number of reputable, I will say that reputable brand in jointly promoting this product. In 5 years' time, we are hoping that when everybody talk about sustainable material, they know about RenewMaterial.
All right, so a couple more questions. You're an entrepreneur. You came out of a pretty nice packaged job, I'm sure, and you jumped into the space. What have you learned about yourself as a person, as an entrepreneur, through this company over the last 13 years?
No, I will say that you have to be very persistent, believe in what you are doing. And I've been hearing people in the last 10 over years, it is impossible, give out, don't waste your time. You must have a very strong heart, do something you like, persistent, and I believe that we can make it.
All right, so if you were to give 3 tips to a young entrepreneur, right, they're 25, 32 years old, or they're a student studying entrepreneurship, what are 2 or 3 things that they should know about the entrepreneurship process?
You must have the interest. You must have the interest. If you do not have the interest, you just do it for the money, you won't last for long. Number 2, do your homework. Do your homework. When I talk about do your homework, meaning that do enough research once you get into a project like this, 12 years, if you do not do your homework and understand about the potential problem that you may be facing, and you may give up halfway. Right. And lastly, I will say that it's persistent. Believe in yourself. Right. You must believe in yourself, and have a strong heart. Just move on.
Just move on.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yes.
All right, man. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure.